Donald Trump's shady and corrupt dealings with Qatar is so unconstitutional and compromising that I had to make it its own video. And it's not just about Trump, it's about the cabinet. I'm Jeremiah Patterson, an independent journalist covering news, politics, and history. Welcome to the Jeremiah Patterson Show. Donald Trump has recently accepted a plane from Qatar priced at $400 million. If he were a regular citizen, this would be a fine and nice gift from a foreign country, but he's the President of the United States, and this violates the Emoluments Clause of the U.S. Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8, which prohibits federal officials from accepting gifts, emoluments, titles, or offices from foreign states without the consent of Congress. Despite this being overtly clear, Trump just doesn't care because, of course, he's corrupt. And while this isn't surprising, it's facing pushback on the left and the right. But before we get into that, it's important to understand how this got started. In 2017, Donald Trump called Qatar a, quote, funder of terrorism at a very high level. And since then, they sought to transform their reputation in the global community. A big part of this was choosing to host the FIFA World Cup in Qatar for 2022. Another part of rebuilding their image was spending millions of dollars on lobbyists in Washington, D.C., among other capitals. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Lee Zeldin, Mike Huckabee, and Steve Witkoff, among other people. All of them, you might know, are currently serving in the Trump administration. Pam Bondi is the Attorney General, Kash Patel is the FBI Director, Lee Zeldin is the EPA Administrator, Mike Huckabee is the U.S. Ambassador to Israel, and Steve Witkoff is the Trump administration's Special Envoy to the Middle East. In 2019, Pam Bondi registered as a foreign agent for the Embassy of the State of Qatar, representing Qatari interest under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. During her lobbying days, she made $115,000 a month. Boy, that's a sweet chunk of cash. Not a year, that's $115K a month. This is obviously highly controversial and came up when Pam Bondi was picked to be the Attorney General. Democratic Senator Dick Durbin actually had a huge problem with it. Quote, I'm disappointed that Pam Bondi failed to list several clear conflicts of interest, which indicates she does not take these conflicts seriously. The American people deserve an Attorney General who avoids even the appearance of impropriety, and they deserve an Attorney General who will put them ahead of any wealthy special interest or foreign government. End quote. This was him questioning her during the Senate confirmation hearing about her lobbying for Qatar.
Ask you about your work as a lobbyist for Ballard Partners. You did not list your current position as a partner at the lobbying firm, nor the work you've done for your Ballard partner clients, such as lobbying for the country of Qatar for $115,000 a month, and for corporate giants Amazon and Uber when you were asked about conflicts of interest. Why do you believe your work as a lobbyist does not constitute potential conflicts of interest?
Well, Senator, first, that was the amount my firm received. I believe multiple people represented the country of Qatar within my firm. My role, and I am very proud of the work that I did, it was a short time and I wish it had been longer for Qatar, was anti-human trafficking efforts leading into the World Cup, which is something I'd like to talk about later too. I was registered as FARA, along with many members of my firm. That was the sole portion of my representation for Qatar. Now, if there are any conflicts with anyone I represented in private practice, I would consult with the career ethics officials within the department and make the appropriate decision. I would also like to point out to you, I don't believe that I would be the first Attorney General who has represented and advocated for businesses in their past.
Of course not. The question is whether you will recuse yourself from any case involving your Ballard clients.
So during this question, she is asked if something were to come up regarding Qatar or anything, essentially that she would personally anything that she was personally involved in, that she essentially, as Attorney General, she would recuse herself. She would consult U.S., career officials at the DOJ, and then she would recuse herself. Well, the day after she was confirmed as AG, she narrowed the enforcement of the Foreign Corruption Practices Act to matters involving, quote, criminal operations of cartels and transnational criminal organizations. That's quite fitting. Soon after that, she narrowed the Foreign Agents Registration Act, enforcement of foreign lobbying, essentially to narrow it down to enforcement of foreign lobbying and influence campaigns. In an ethics agreement she signed upon becoming AG, Bondi stated that essentially she would not participate personally or substantially in any particular matter involving specific parties that she or Ballard Partners, the firm that she was at, had represented for 1 year or after her resignation from the firm. Well, not surprisingly, Bondi is not adhering to any of that. According to reporting from the New York Times, Pam Bondi personally signed a Justice Department memo approving the legality of Qatar gifting the jet to the Trump administration. Her memo concluded that it would be legally permissible for the Trump administration and his presidential library to accept the gift, in that it would not violate the U.S. Constitution's emoluments clause. But you see how ostentatiously corrupt this is, right? Pam Bondi, a former lobbyist for the Qatari government, is now the Attorney General of the United States and approves of the Trump administration, directly just Donald Trump, really, accepting a $400 million gift from her former bosses. We are beyond the term conflict of interest here. This is overt corruption and shady dealings. Tony Clark, the executive director at Accountable.us, said, quote, Qatar lobbyist turned Attorney General Pam Bondi is complicit in Donald Trump's efforts to gut checks and balances to normalize presidential self-dealing and influence peddling. Bondi's moves as AG to curb enforcement of foreign bribery laws seems to have been in anticipation of this very kind of sketchy overseas tribute to President Trump. The ethical and legal gymnastics Bondi performed forgive me for laughing, to justify a bribe as blatant as a luxury jet to this administration, including rubber stamping Donald Trump's personal use after the presidency, would be laughable if the potential consequences for the American people and our national security weren't so serious. Bondi clearly took the American people for a ride when she promised to recuse herself when even a hint of conflict of interest might arise. But it's become just another day for the pay-to-play administration, end quote. Kash Patel was also a lobbyist for Qatar, and he's now the FBI director, but essentially he has been more surreptitious about his dealings with the nation. During his Senate confirmation process, he failed to disclose key details. According to his financial disclosure form, it shows that Patel was a consultant registered for the Embassy of Qatar, but he didn't make it shows here that he made more than $5,000. We can also see that he was paid through a company personally owned by him called Trishul, which engaged in national security, defense, and intelligence consulting. According to the firm, he earned more than $2.1 million in 2024 through Trishul, but everything else is really hush-hush. In an ethics agreement with DOJ, Patel noted that under federal law, he would not be permitted to engage in matters related to Qatar without receiving written authorization permitting him to do so. But how long is that going to be before it just becomes words on paper that no one actually follows? Mother Jones had an incredible investigative piece on this and contacted the FBI and texted Patel, inquiring about the services he provided to Qatar and what payments he received, and neither responded. According to the article, Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, was paid $50,000 to visit Qatar in 2018, and Steve Witkoff has pocketed money from Qatar as well, including a $623 million deal. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin was also involved with the government. The Trump Organization recently struck a deal to develop a luxury golf resort in Qatar, and now they're going to give him this jet, which he wants to turn into Air Force One. After leaving office, it would be for his personal use. But of course, turning this jet into Air Force One is going to be extremely expensive. That's going to cost up to $1 billion. Trump recently finished a 4-day visit to UAE and Saudi Arabia, and during the tour, they did everything possible to appease Trump: Tesla Cybertrucks, elite camels, and trillion-dollar vows. Ultimately, $200 billion in deals were signed and an additional $3.5 billion in weapons sales to UAE and Qatar. Now, U.S. senators are seeking to essentially block those deals, accusing Trump of engaging in corruption of foreign U.S. policy. They are concerned that these deals will personally benefit Trump and his family. As of what's being done for the accountability portion of this, Senator Dick Durbin, who initially questioned Pam Bondi, is now asking for her essentially to hand over that memo that she reportedly delivered to the White House lawyers, concluding that Trump could accept this luxury jet as a gift without violating the Constitution. I too would like to know what kind of illegal level gymnastics she did to justify that in this memo. The House is also looking into this as more and more members of Congress are growing concerned about this as well. Because what we have to understand is that Donald Trump's shady and corrupt dealings with foreign nations is not new. This is something that happened before under the previous Trump administration. But what's happening now, it's more so brazen. It's more so overt and conspicuous. I mean, this is just one example of many. I'm going to have another video coming up soon on, crypto and Donald Trump's self-dealings with that. And also the weird announcement he just made with Syria as a deal was just made with, his private entities. So it's not just, what's happening in Qatar, but it's also the fact that any foreign leader can effectively buy this presidency and buy access to the Oval Office. There is now a proverbial for sale sign in front of the White House right now, on the White House lawn. You want secrets? You want a deal? You want this country? Okay, why don't you buy some of my crypto coin? Why don't you buy the $1 million, gold card to get into the United States? Why don't you, anyone can get access to this president because, of course, appeasement is what gets him, even if that means overtly violating the U.S. Constitution and federal law. We're going to keep you updated on this story as it continues to develop. Once again, this is the Jeremiah Patterson Show. Please be sure to comment any suggestions, questions, or your thoughts on this video. If you are a fan of the Jeremiah Patterson Show, please recommend it to your family and friends. You can also support us by donating financially, as this is independent journalism, and we rely on your donations to continue this crucial work. Another way you can support my work is by becoming a paid subscriber to my Substack at tjpsnews for just $7.99 or $75 a year. I will see you tonight for my evening news show, and stay tuned for that. Lots to talk about, including what's going on with mass deportation, freedom of the press under attack, the rule of law under attack, the Republican bill that just failed in committee, but there's still going to be negotiations, so I'm going to have a breakdown on what that means and more, and other things related to international matters. Be sure to follow me on Blue Sky and Substack at TJPS News. If you have any questions, news topic requests, or want to do a collaboration, you can email me, tjpsnews@gmail.com. See you tonight.